Thank you all for being here on the panel. Sherri, let's start with you. Tell us how and when CEC Entertainment got into the virtual brand business.
Interestingly enough, we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary, and it's hard to believe that that much time has passed. But at the height of the pandemic, or the start of the pandemic, we quickly knew that a brand like Chuck E. Cheese needed to do something different. And we had considered a virtual brand and how do we fully leverage our operational infrastructure for some time. The pandemic just made it happen faster, right? And so we launched a brand called Pasquales Pizza and Wings. Happens to be the name of a chef as part of our character set. And so it's kind of an easy connection there. And what we did is we said, okay, what do we know well? And we know pizza well. We've been doing pizza for a very long time with both the Chuck E. Cheese and the Peter Piper brands. But then how do we take it to the next level and deliver a pizza that a guest in the delivery space would want from a new brand, an unknown brand? And so we elevated the flavor profile, we elevated the ingredients, we changed the taste so that it identified with a more mature audience, and we launched it in March 2 years ago. And it's been a really, really successful part of our business. And so probably not what we anticipated. And the reality is, when we did it, we thought, look, there's no better time than now because our teams aren't focused on little kids and games.
Right.
And we want to keep them staffed and keep them working.
Right. Restaurants were closed.
We were closed.
Right.
And so this part of our business was open, and it's worked well, and we continue to kind of try to grow it now.
Awesome. Aaron, tell us about Starboard Chicken and your virtual brands and your omni-channel approach.
Sure. So Starboard, we're about 5.5 years old as a company. We serve positively delicious chicken. We're a super premium fast food restaurant based in San Francisco, California. Our initial restaurant was in Silicon Valley. We really created Starboard to change and to elevate everything that we sort of felt was not right about fast food. And that included the ingredients, the quality of food. We're a chef-driven company. I have a company called The Culinary Edge, largest food and beverage innovation agency, and it was really the passion project of our team members to not just do for others, but to actually walk the talk that we did, and Starboard really gave us a vehicle for that. We also wanted to change the convenience aspect. You know, drive-throughs have been the definition of convenience for a long time. And you know, the marketplace was changing. Drive-throughs don't do a great job of handling technology and ordering ahead. You're still stuck in this queue line. There's a lot of innovation that's been happening since we opened our doors. We got into the virtual brand business really by looking at, you know, what opportunities were, how to reach more customers, how to get digital real estate in particular. You know, how can we show up, you know, on 5 screens on a DoorDash screen versus just 1? And how do we optimize our search engine, our search engine? You know, if someone's looking for a salad and they're going to search salad, how do we get that to come to the top? So those were some of the initial hypotheses. We started with Starboard Wings prior to the pandemic, and during the pandemic, we actually brought wings back into the restaurant you know, because everything was being ordered externally anyway, and we had extra time to cook that product. So that was the origin of it, and there's been a tremendous evolution. We now have 5 brands altogether: Starboard Salads, Starboard Wings, Garden Bird, and Starboard Bowls. And we're working on new ones. We may sunset one of the brands, so it's a constant evolution of what we're working through.
Well, you've been wildly successful. I read that 85% of your company sales are off-prem, and in your cloud kitchens, 40% of sales come from the virtual brands.
Correct. Yes, we started originally, we were 60-40 on-premise to off. And over time, we've become, you know, highly convenient to the consumer. We've always tried to build a small box. You know, restaurants are more like 2,000 to 2,500 square feet. 2,500 is sort of an outlier. We try and build them in the 1,700 to 2,200, and we'll do, you know, close to 2,000 a foot. You know, we're pushing 4 million AUV in our company-owned restaurants out of 2,000 square foot box, and we're not building drive-throughs. And it's, you know, technology has really allowed us to create those numbers of transactions.
Andre, tell us about Doghouse and your 5 virtual brands, and Absolute Brands and what that entails. What's your approach? Do you license or franchise or both? Can customers order through third-party delivery or?
Yeah, so Doghouse has currently right now 5 virtual brands. It was created in 2019. We call it the Absolute Brands, our virtual companies. The reason why we created it was the same reason Aaron just mentioned, was when you go into a Doghouse, a brick and mortar, you see our menu kind of in 5 different categories: dog, sausage, burgers, chicken, plant-based. But when we were on the third-party delivery platforms, you could only have a couple search words. So ours was dogs, burgers, Americana. And so we realized that the P-mix wasn't representing what the customers were coming in to order at our stores. And we're like, well, no one's ordering the chicken, no one's ordering the plant-based, but they do when they come in our stores, but they're only ordering burgers and dogs online. So we created different virtual brands that represent our menu and then kind of filled it out. So for example, we came up with the Impossible Shop partnership recently, and that's our plant-based section. We have a company called Bad Mother Clucker, which is our hot Nashville chicken style. We wanted to go into different day parts, so we came up with a company called Badass Breakfast Burritos. And we just all of a sudden realized that now people were ordering what they were searching for. And so we originally did this only for our ghost kitchens. I believe we were in the first Cloud Kitchen and Kitchen United in 2019 early. So we created these virtual brands only to be in a ghost kitchen. Then the pandemic happened after the first month of hiding under the couch and realizing, well, what are we doing here? We called up all of our franchisees and we said, would you like to try this out of your actual brick and mortars? And so everybody did it, and that within 2 months, our same store sales were back to normal. Even our bars were completely closed. So it was the lifeline for our brand during the pandemic. From 2019 sales to ending 2021, we're up 34%, and that's only because of the Absolute Brands carried it. So now we're all excited to go back into the bar business that we have.
Awesome.
Having people come back and seeing that these brands stay, plus get the bar back, it could be pretty. Looks like there might be a great opportunity for the brand to not only continue to develop on the virtual side, but go back to what we were known for with the bars.
Awesome.
And to answer your question with with how do people order, we do work with a couple companies. We've been with Olo on the delivery platform with us, but also working right now with Bbot to figure out a way to to have one basket for all the different brands. So something that Kitchen United does at the Ghost Kitchen is you go to a Kitchen United, they have 10 restaurants there, and you could order a pizza, and you could order some chicken, and you could order a breakfast burrito and put it into one basket from 3 different companies and get it delivered or for pickup. And so we're doing that, creating an app that will allow us to do that with our own brands so that you could cross-mix different companies.
Very cool. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about those tech challenges. Sherri, when you guys launched Pasquales Pizza, can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges you faced integrating those third-party delivery orders at the beginning of March 2020?
So our business is a little bit different than the businesses just described, in that Chuck E. Cheese had been wholly an entertainment-driven business, right?
Sure.
It's all about families and games. And of course, we sell pizza, and it's wonderful pizza, but we didn't have a big delivery or carryout business, right? It's just not the way that our guests used our business. And so while we had launched third-party delivery, because we were kind of tiptoeing in that arena to see, well, is there a customer base who maybe has graduated from the little kid stage or the mom stage, and they have fond memories of Chuck E. and the pizza. We kind of tiptoed in that arena, and we had third-party delivery. But we had third-party delivery direct. And so we had tablets in all 460 some odd locations. We had 5 of them. And most people know this, right? You have issues with order accuracy, issues with delivering on time, issues with driver pickup. because we just didn't have the integration, right? What it forced us to do quickly is say, yikes, we need to do this. Now, fortunately, many of us have been around the restaurant industry for a long time, and we knew about platforms like Olo, and we launched that so that we could have direct integration into our POS, which has certainly been a lifesaver. While the pandemic was still at its height, and our teams were in our stores, but the guests weren't, managing those tablets was okay. But the minute our doors reopened and we had to service mom and a 5-year-old or 3 5-year-olds, that changed. And so that integration became critically important. As we continue to learn, there are other things that we have to consider, right? How do we leverage that technology in a way that's really easy for the guests? What does the user experience and the interface look like? Is it highly compelling? People eat with their eyes. Is it easy for them to navigate? Can they order pizza and wings and salad in a smart way? And so we're learning that. We've just started a integration with Koala to try to improve some of that user interface. And we're leveraging that not just on Pasquales, but all 3 brands that we own. So it's a journey, certainly, but it's a lot easier now with the technology that we're leveraging.
Awesome. Erin, you mentioned that Starbird is about 5.5 years old. Big contrast to CEC and their brands, which are over 50. When you started the company, where did you land on buy versus build? Were you able to embrace a scalable system to avoid that tablet hell that Sherri just described?
That's tablet hell.
Yeah, I mean, when we started in 2016, it was a very different world. There wasn't much third-party delivery. Our original hypothesis was the drive-thru's broken, and technology, you can't use technology. And so what we did is we built an app. We launched day one with an app that allowed you to order from the app. When you arrive, you say, I'm here. It sends a message to the kitchen. Food gets brought out to the car, which was then copied by Chick-fil-A a year later, and McDonald's, and everyone else did it, and did it way better than we did, because we're a startup company who had cobbled together a bunch of technologies who said, we can try this. What changed in the marketplace was that the need state was very different. Starbucks came out with the Order Ahead app and pretty much, I would say, changed the dynamic of ordering ahead. It was actually more convenient to order ahead on the app, and if there's a parking space, you pull in, you go grab your coffee, your drink, your food, you're in the car. It's a 15 to 60-second transaction, which was much faster than the anxiety that's created when you pull your car up and you go to a waiting space and you say, come out, and so on and so forth. And also, they have outsourced the delivery of the product to the consumer, which is very cost effective. Then third-party delivery comes by, and what's the most convenient thing in the world? Well, sitting right here in this chair and ordering food and having it brought to your home. So what we saw was that between order ahead and third-party delivery, those were just skyrocketing. So we eliminated the curbside pickup because 4% of our consumers couldn't get out of the car and walk in the door because they had kids in the back or whatever. That just wasn't our consumer anyway.
Okay.
But to shift in terms of where we went with technology for handling virtual brands and third party, we started out with the tablets, like everybody did. We opened our first ghost kitchen in 2019, similarly. I'll never forget going to the Cloud Kitchen site in Koreatown in LA to see the very first one that they built. And there was one brand there that had 10 pizza brands, and they had 10 different packaging solutions, and they had 10 different tablets for four different
Wow.
carriers. There was a sea of tablets. And I said, okay, we're not doing that, and we're not going to have 10 different kinds of packaging either. So when we thought about creating virtual brands, it was how do we ensure that we can integrate? And we went with Olo, and that helped us dramatically. And then secondarily, we went with what we call our branded house, which is all Starboard branded entities versus a house of brands. And that was a big decision for us. There's a lot of advantages and reach you can get with a house of brands, and what Andre's doing and what Sherri's doing. But we felt like the long game was all about Starboard. We've invested so much time and energy into this, and we can have different iconography that fits our brand look and feel. Our overarching message of what does Starboard stand for touches all the brands in the way that like Powered by Doghouse does for you, that essence is there. But a lot of it is about customer acquisition now. Really just getting new customers. Starboard Salads is, 8-9% of sales in all of our restaurants, and that's on, $4 million in sales. You can imagine the level of sales coming through that type of brand has changed the game for us.
Awesome. Andre, can you tell us about how the off-prem demand has affected your store design?
Right now, so we have currently, with special sites and ghost kitchens and regular brick and mortar, 75 locations, and we're currently in construction with 20, but we're pausing on a few different layouts because of what's going on. What we've realized is now the business, we don't see it's going away, the off-premise,
Right.
but the on-premise, the bar scene again is coming back. So we're actually making a bigger footprint of a bar, little less tables on the outside, and having a second line for the kitchen in the back. Because what we do with the advantage of having the virtual brands, and you could toggle them on and off. So if you have 200 people getting in line for lunch, you don't want to take those orders for the breakfast burritos or the chicken sandwiches for delivery of another 200 people. So what we do is we turn off those DSPs and deal with our customers. But we don't want to. We're realizing we're losing all that sales, so we're getting a second line in the back, less seating in the front, and a bigger bar because we've already signed those leases, so we can't really change anything. Of course, we all want to have the 1,800 square foot place, but it seems like a lot of the times the landlord's saying still, it's 22, 2,500. But yeah, you have to adapt to that, because I was very shocked when I found out that today we have 55% of our sales are off-premise, throw in another 18% in alcohol, and you're like, okay, so only 30% of our business is people coming into a restaurant and ordering food. The rest is more of the vibe, and then the rest is, hey, I want it delivered to my office for lunch, and I want it delivered to my couch, you know? And so you do have to make those adjustments, and I don't think it's too late for people who've signed leases to quick pivot a little bit, and I think that one extra month of delay in construction is well worth it compared to the 10 years that we're going to be serving those guests.
Awesome. Sherri, recently one of your brands, Peter Piper Pizza, made an announcement about its new brick and mortar format. Can you give us a little bit of details on that, how it's evolved?
I will say that exactly what Andre describes is what we're experiencing. So Peter Piper has a little over 100 locations here in the States. And have historically been about 10,000 square feet. Now, we have games in those footprints as well, but the primary reason for that business is food. It's food first. It's all about the pizza. But what we're learning off of the end of Pasquales and what we've experienced from a virtual brand, and what we're seeing in the landscape, as Aaron described, is that consumer behavior is just different. It's just different. People may never come back to in the same way dining in. And what do you do with that? When we look at the Peter Piper business overall, during the height of the pandemic, we were able to quickly transition to off-premise, and that mix has maintained and the base has come back. So again, like you described, you've got this kind of two parts of the business growing. And so we believe that we have an opportunity to fill in the gaps where we already are with an express that's only focused on the food, that uses technology, allows us to kind of churn through the product in a way that still delivers the quality pizza that people expect in a much smaller footprint. So we're looking at 1,100, 1,200 square feet to try to do that.
1,100 square feet, down from 10,000.
Down from 10,000
square feet.
Now, obviously, there'll be no games. Right? But really, it's about how do I drive delivery? How do I drive pickup, order ahead and pickup? And how do I keep the back of the house in order to deliver the same quality of product? So that's our Peter Piper Express. It will open in about 2 weeks. We say next week, but I say 2 just because I always like to give ourselves cushion, right? Because you never know.
We've all been there.
You just never know what happens. But it's exciting because it allows us to deliver the food in a way that the guest is looking forward to. And we're also looking forward to what other things can we test that are different than a 10,000 square foot entity and still allows us to deliver quality food in the way that our consumers are changing today.
Great. I think we might have time for 1 or 2 questions. Just raise your hand if you have a question, and we'll have a mic runner reach you. Down here in the front.
Hi guys, thanks for your time. Are any of you guys in current Cloud Kitchen or Kitchens United spaces? And I know Starbird, I know you guys are, and you mentioned it with Kitchens United. But what are your thoughts on that model versus executing out of your own kitchen?
Well, I think it's 2 different things. So we're in about 6 Cloud Kitchens and maybe 5 or 6 Kitchen Uniteds, plus a couple one-offs. It's something there's a couple reasons why I think you'd want to go there. So the reason why we do it, we're in the franchise business. So we sometimes want to go into a market and test it out. So we'll go into Austin, we'll use a ghost kitchen as an opportunity. We'll make sure we'll see where the traffic's coming from, and then we'll sign that 10-year lease there. So, in our situation, we're not big enough to be able to have a ghost kitchen and a brick and mortar within 3 miles of each other. We'll just, it doesn't make sense. So we'll go ahead and shut that one down, and then let the brick and mortar locations stay open. Other times we'll go into a market just to see if we're like San Francisco. It's a very dangerous market for us where, we're not the hometown hero there, and so we want to see if our brands are even welcome and which brands. It's really interesting. If we would have known about ghost kitchens and virtual brands, we might have had a different thought process in Chicago, for example. We went into Chicago maybe 3 years ago with a brick and mortar, and let me just tell you, we weren't welcomed. There's a little bit of a PR glitch, but also people have their local dogs, their Chicago dogs. They're like, what are you doing here? The franchisee actually struggled, had sales around 17,000, 15,000 a week, was barely making it. We launched the virtual brands, the Absolute Brands. He's the first person to launch them. That's why they were created, to try to save him. And today, his store is that same store is doing 60,000 a week. And that's only because of the virtual brands are more than 60% of the sales there. And everyone's like, oh, hot Nashville chicken, badass breakfast burritos. Everybody in Chicago loves that, the Impossible Shop. So our dog house, if we would have had a ghost kitchen there, we might not have rolled out a dog house brick and mortar there. So I'm actually a big fan of Kitchen United and the ghost concepts. What you don't want to do in our situation, like I said, is go block a location, right? Do a ghost kitchen in an area where now you can't have a brick and mortar that does twice the volume. But some of our ghost kitchens are doing 40,000 a week, and that's 250 square feet. So it's a great way to get in the game. Light CapEx, 1-2 year lease. You could open for $100,000 and really take advantage of it.
Great. Well, we have 3 very different approaches to virtual brands, and I want to thank my panelists for taking to the stage with me to share their perspective. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.